Hello beauties, I hope you're doing amazing. Today I'm going to talk about 6 palettes that I purchased with hesitation. I didn't think I was going to like these palettes, but after I purchased and used them, I ended up doing a 180 on them, and now I really like them and I recommend them to other people. If you want to know what these 6 palettes are, hang tight, give this video a thumbs up, and let's get started. Okay friends, there's no ranking or particular order here. These are just jumbled. The first palette is the Chucky palette from a GlamLite. The reason I thought I'm not going to like this palette is because these colors are just not my kind of colors. I'm not somebody who likes to make goth type of looks, and I thought this palette is a combination of neutrals. If you follow me, you know I'm not a very neutrally person. Particularly matte black is not my color. I'm always complaining about why matte blacks are in different palettes, and look at this palette. It has what looks like a few matte blacks, but after using this palette, particularly some of these plummy dark red colors, I fell in love with this palette, and I realized that these colors were very much missing in my collection, and now it's one of those palettes that I love reaching for. The only thing that I think is still missing from this palette is an actual blood red. GlamLite, if you're hearing me. Palette number 2 is Sugar and Grunge from Blend Bunny. I was not used to this kind of cool toned color stories when this palette came out, and I kind of thought to myself, I'm not so sure about this one. But I have a review of this palette on my channel. After I made those eye looks, I was like, this palette is amazing, and of course it has the Blend Bunny qualities, so I love the mattes. They're just amazingly pigmented. Another issue with this is that I'm not a pastel person, and I felt that these, like the bottom row, was just not going to be colors I would ever reach for often. But the bottom row is so pigmented, it also kind of made me do a 180 on my opinion of pastels. So Blend Bunny, if you're hearing me, great job. The only issue I have with this palette is it does not close. Can you see that? It kind of sits like that. I don't know what happened there. Almost for the same reason, number 3 is Delicious Delights. I purchased this palette only because I'm kind of loyal to Cosmic brushes. I love their other palettes, and I thought I really need to have this one because the colors are very much complements to those. But before ordering it, I was like, this is a 99% pastel palette. These colors are probably not going to show on me at all, and I'm probably never going to reach for this palette. I have a video reviewing this palette also on my channel, and when I was doing the looks for that video, I realized that I can actually get some good use out of this palette, and these pastels very much show on my skin and they look very nice. Particularly, I tried to use some of the colors in ways I wouldn't normally use them. I mean, these two are sort of the darkest colors in the palette, and I generally like to use palettes that have a variety of dark tones, but I managed to get a good number of creative looks out of this palette to my own surprise. So I'm actually reaching very frequently to this palette, although it's not summer anymore when people use pastels. Palette number 4, beauties, is Palopo. This shouldn't come to any of you as a surprise. I've talked about that in the past, that this palette I actually bought with a lot of hesitation. I did not think that I would like this color story. Now, I knew before I picked this palette up that I like Ace Beauty's matte formula a lot. So I thought, well, if this palette doesn't work for me, at least I'll get some nice mattes out of this. And I purchased this last year, I believe during the holiday sale. It was on a very, very steep discount. And I think I picked it up to get to the limit to get free shipping. And I thought if I don't want it, I can just gift it to somebody. But when I opened it, I was like, this is actually much more pretty in person. And when I used it, I was like, wow, this palette, you can get very, very nice looks out of it. I kind of psychologically didn't think I could use these colors to get a beautiful look on myself. But after I got it, I realized that I definitely can do that. And I've mentioned this, you can, if you're completely confused about this palette, you can use each column to make a different type of look. So blues together, plums together, purples together, browns together, and so on. And in fact, you can kind of break this palette down. For example, these middle 3 columns can frankly be a palette of their own. They can be used together. You can use the purples and the plums with the pinks. You can use these 2 columns together for a more neutral look. You can get a variety of very colorful looks as well as office appropriate looks. You can use blues and the pinks. Yeah, beauties. Definitely did a 180 on this palette. I love it now. Palette number 5, beauties, is Royal Europe. If you've watched my review of Fête de Provence, you know that I didn't have a lot of luck with that palette from Nomad, and I was not sure if I wanted to pick this palette up from Nomad because the issues I had with that palette were with the mattes, particularly with dark mattes. They came out very thin and kind of fly away. They were just blending into nothing. And I was thinking, well, this palette is mostly mattes. I don't know if I want to test it. But beauties, this palette has amazing quality, and I'm so glad I picked it up because I have made some amazing looks with this. Now, you all know I love jewel tone mattes, and this palette has plenty of those. So it's very, very nice. I actually did a review that I ended up not posting in this channel because at the time this palette came out, I was traveling a lot, and by the time I actually completed that review, it was like 3 months after this palette, and I was like, nobody wants to watch that review. But now I'm thinking I should do a few looks and post them on my Instagram. If you're interested to see some looks with this palette, let me know in the comments below. And our last palette is, drumroll, Dark Fantasy from Beauty Bay. This palette was the holiday time palette of last year. Now, beauties, obviously this palette is not a holiday palette. I mean, look at it. And it has a lot of dark colors. It's kind of ironic because this had the opposite issue to Delicious Delights for me. I'm pretty sure if you've been watching my channel, you know that one of the main complaints I have about different palettes that I review is that they don't have enough light colors for the inner corner, for across the lid, etc. And when I saw this, I was like, this palette is just so dark. Particularly, you know, some of these might look lighter than they are, some of the shimmers, but actually if you move it around, you realize they actually have a very dark hue. So depending on which direction you're looking at them, they could be pretty dark. I ended up getting this palette, and in person, it's so much prettier than in photos and on camera. Another issue with the palette that I think a lot of people had is that because it's all jumbled up, it's kind of difficult to find out how you can use this to make it look. But I managed to break it down into quads, like you can use these 4 in one look, these 4 in one look, these 6 in one look, and these 6 in one look. And I think that's what I did in the video of the review of this palette. I do have a review of it on my channel. Not that it matters anymore because this palette is no longer available, but doing that made me realize actually this palette is very nice, and you can, because it's so different, you can get some very, very interesting looks from it that you would not expect. And very fast it became one of my favorite palettes from Beauty Bay, and I managed to make very nice looks with it. Beauties, with that we come to the end of this video. Don't forget to write to me in the comments below if there is a palette you did a 180 on. I would love to hear the name. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, and if you enjoy this kind of videos, give it a thumbs up so that I know and I make more kind of similar content for you. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed already. I love you all. Have an amazing day, and until next time. Bye.